And as I said before, you remember that Abraham Lincoln had newspapers he could send letters to get the word out. And now we have radio kind of taking over, in a sense, as a truly national medium, reaching most of the households in the U.S. And here's FDR doing one of his fireside chats. It looks like a Christmas tree in back of him. And you see all the microphones in front of him with the names of the different networks, etc., some of which we don't know too much about anymore, like the Blue Network or Mutual Network. And then I'm not going to play the recording Roosevelt, but it's there if you want to paste it in and listen. It's pretty short. Fireside chat. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. He used the radio to calm the nation as he worked to reverse the effects of the Great Depression in the early 1930s when he was first elected. Early radio signals were AM, and FM was developed later and used for music broadcasting. And eventually, a lot of the programming in radio did move to music when TV took the place of radio for a lot of this sitcom, etc. sort of entertainment. And here we see now, instead of clustering around the big radio console, families clustering around a black and white television set. And this all started to come together after World War II. And actually, a lot of the way set up and programming, etc., how advertising is handled, that had worked for radio, these things were simply transferred to television. And in fact, the successful radio networks started television networks, notably CBS and NBC. So network radio was replaced by television for entertainment programming that the family listened to on a regular basis. So what happened to radio? Well, it became a local medium primarily. FM became the preferred method of broadcasting music, and radio broadcast music, including rock and roll. And the term rock and roll was supposedly invented by an early disc jockey who worked in Cleveland named Alan Freed, and that's a picture of Alan Freed on the left. The person on the right with the glasses is Buddy Holly. I don't know the rest of the guys there, and I don't know if you've heard of Buddy Holly, probably not. But he died very young in a plane crash, along with a number of other Ritchie Valens and other up-and-coming rock stars who were traveling in Wisconsin in the winter from one little rock show to another. I'm not going to play the DJs of early rock and roll, but the links again are there for you to listen to. The DJs had a lot of power. Record companies relied on them to play certain music. There were, in fact, some payoffs. Payola, it was called, and it was a bit of a controversy there. Do we have DJs today? Disc jockeys. We do, right? And also after World War II, automobiles continued their growth and prevalence across America. And so this music programming very easily could be transferred to the car. So radios moved out of homes for a great part, into cars. And here's some data. 54% of radio listeners listen to radio only in the car. This is fairly recent data. And cars, there are more cars because there are more roads, because also after World War II, the federal government built the highway system that we know today. And so here you see a chart that shows vehicle miles driven by cars on all roads. And from 1970 to 2020, and you can see it goes up. More and more roads, more and more cars. The car kind of at the center of our lives so far. Maybe changing a bit now, though, right? Cars with radios in them. So radio today, network radio is a very small player in terms of advertising spending. It's political commentary for the most part. I don't think it could really be called news. There's sports commentary. There are traffic reports that you get on the radio, which are good for cars. Then mostly you have lots of local stations playing different kinds of music and maybe playing some news. And spot or local radio is $13.6 billion. And spot radio means radio that just runs in a certain geography, in a certain. It's you can think of it as a city, but it's a little more than a city, as you'll see in a minute. So not a lot of network radio, the old-time network radio, but lots of local radio, multiple stations with different music formats in different cities. That's how it works. And of course, radio, like every other media type, newspapers, for instance, magazines, content is bleeding into the internet. And Spotify, of course, is a big player. Pandora not doing too well. But you've also got satellite radio like Sirius, and which you can also get in your car and in your home. And the famous DJ Howard Stern is on Sirius Radio. So all this driving in cars had an impact on radio. It was also good for out of home, of course, right? More vehicles on more roads, more exposure to out of home. Radio content today is, as I think I have already kind of covered, but it's talk radio. We do have National Public Radio, which kind of rose up because a number of people felt that radio content was too much for the advertisers, and the medium should be used to do some good and do some real educating of the public. So you have National Public Radio. Of course, we already talked about podcasts, which is ferociously growing. And then on the local front, you've got music, news, and talk. And again, I'm not going to play Rush Limbaugh. And I'm not going to play Howard Stern, but these are guys. Howard is now on Sirius, and Rush is on a network, which had been owned by CBS. So we've covered a lot so far in our discussing radio. We talked about how radio arose because of technological advances in electricity and the use of radio waves. And that was monetized in the 20s and the 30s by some enterprising businessmen who created networks, local radio stations and networks, and broadcast entertainment and information programming, and accepted sponsors and advertisers. And that when the television emerged, it changed radio, it closed some doors to radio, but it opened some other doors in automobiles and transistor radios, etc., and music programming. Radios continued to survive, and now is primarily a local medium, although things like podcasts and satellite radio are kind of going against that trend. So when you buy radio, you basically are buying a market. You've decided that you need some more media, some more weight, some more impressions in certain geographies. And you think that your message will lend itself to a radio commercial. And so it's a creative decision, it's a media decision that's made. And then you get a list of markets where the client wants to have that media weight. And you can look up all the stations available in the market and what their programming formats are, and who they reach, and who you should call at the station. And obviously, you've got your target. Is he or she young or old, or listening to news, or listening to Spanish language radio? And also with radio, as with every medium, you have a desired number of impressions and GRPs. You have a desired cost per thousand to come in at. But everything starts with the market. And now I'm going to stop. No, I don't have to. There's no sound in this. I'm going to go ahead and open up an important website that we haven't really looked at yet, called SRDS, which stands for Standard Rate and Data Services. The company is owned by Kantar Media, which is also owned by WPP Group, a large agency conglomerate. And this is where you go to look up opportunities in local media by city or however you want to look it up. And SRDS has all these databases to buy radio, to buy out of home, and the agency or the buyer subscribes to SRDS, to whatever part of it that they want, whether it's radio or out of home or whatever they want. Let's see here, whether they're going to give us, I think they give us a little basic information here. Okay, you can buy magazines on SRDS. You can buy Hispanic media. You can buy newspapers using SRDS, so you go in and look up the city you want to buy, and you see what papers are there and who they reach, what the costs are, what the formats are. Out of home is bought through our SRDS. I know, I've done it. And here's radio. Whoop. For some reason I opened up newspapers. Sorry, everybody. Sorry. Let's see if we can open up the right one. I apologize. Maybe this will do it. Okay. Comprehensive planning data on U.S. AM/FM commercial radio stations, including format detail, demographics, and contact information for 10,300 AM and FM commercial stations. And here are the data you get. I'm sorry your screen's a little cut off, but hopefully you get some ideas here. SRDS, a very, very valuable resource for you guys to know about. Used to be books. Now, of course, it's all online, as it should be. And this is how you buy radio geographically. You buy MSAs, MSA, Metro Survey Area. And these are cooked up by Arbitron, which is the main company that measures radio. This is Texas. And down below you see the metro areas, Abilene, Amarillo, etc. And then you see the numbers corresponding to them. And so if you look at San Antonio 17, you'll see that it's San Antonio right here, and it's several different counties. Again, it's not just the metro area or the city. It's bigger than that. It'll be several counties. But that's, when you buy radio,